The NHL, the National Hockey League, has published their first diversity and inclusion report after I'm sure some twits on Twitter were complaining that there were too many white people playing hockey. And so now we know for sure, and they put together a detailed analysis of the entire sport and found that 84% of the workforce is also dominated by white people. This is from the Associated Press. NHL, its workforce 84% white, set baseline to up diversity. Diversity, of course, being a code word for less white people, less straight white people. And so this is the report, Accelerating Diversity and Inclusion, which is filled with all sorts of fancy pie charts about the racial demographics of the sport. But that's not all. It's never enough. Also, they break down the gender identity demographics and the sexual orientation of people in the sport. Now, it went from it's nobody's business what they do in the privacy of their own home to businesses are now sending out questionnaires to the employees wanting to know so that they can put the queer people up on a pedestal and celebrate them. Seriously, they're complaining that there aren't enough queer people in hockey. And if you attend professional sports, whether it's hockey, football, basketball, pretty much anything these days, you better check the calendar first. Otherwise, you might accidentally be attending a gay pride parade.
Well, it was Pride Night for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Fans were greeted with rainbows galore as the Stanley Cup champs showed that they are champions for everyone in this community.
All they wanted was the right to get married, they said, but now they're throwing gay pride parades at major sporting events. Could you imagine people complaining and then putting together a report about the racial demographics of NBA players and then literally starting an outreach program to try to increase the diversity by recruiting more white players? Or going to any kind of event that has particular cultural roots, like a lowrider show, and then complaining that there aren't enough white people around. Excuse me, Jose, these are some really cool cars, but I'm feeling a little uncomfortable because there are so many Mexicans around here. But the madness never ends. They're also upset that too many white people like to go skiing, even in Europe, which, well, I guess used to be a predominantly white region of the world.
Cortina may be one of only a handful of places to host the Alpine World Championships, but it's similar to every resort in Europe and across North America in one respect: the fact that almost everyone in these beautiful places is white. That is certainly the case here in Larks and has been at all of the places that I've been fortunate enough to visit through competition and now work.
When I say that madness never ends, it literally never ends. There is also a push to increase diversity in cycling, like this organization, which is real, by the way. This is not a parody.
I'm Nia.
I'm Shaka, and together, we're Black People Ride Bikes.
Black People Ride Bikes Incorporated was started to fill a void within the Black cycling community, specifically within advocacy. Our mission is to bring cycling awareness to the Black diaspora.
Cycling awareness? What the heck is the Black diaspora?
By building a community of Black cyclists with a focus on health, exploration, and advocacy. BlackPeopleRideBikes.com. Click the GoFundMe and support.
And remember,
Black people!
ride bikes!
Yay, yay!
The black fragility knows no bounds. Many are upset that too many white people like to enjoy public parks.
The sweeping vistas stir the soul. Wildlife and waterfalls awaken a sense of wonder. The American wilderness, a playground for old and for young, and overwhelmingly white.
When you look around, you don't see people that you identify with. You don't feel welcome. You feel out of place. You feel literally like you are an outsider.
Normal people enjoy public parks to get away from the city or the suburbs and get closer to nature and see the wildlife and the beautiful scenery, but this woman apparently is so anti-white that she just can't get over the fact that there aren't enough brown people around.
Ambreen Tarek is founder of Brown People Camping. When she was 8 years old, her family moved from India to Minnesota, where she fell in love with the outdoors. 20 years later, she's still astonished not to see more people like her.
This is what happens when people's entire identity is focused solely on their race, instead of who they are as a person in terms of what they do or what they bring to the table to benefit mankind. Like, you're a mother, you're a father, you're an engineer, I'm a media analyst. But in this woman's case, I'm a brown woman. Hear me roar. These days, most Fortune 500 companies literally have somebody who works there with the job title of Diversity and Inclusion Officer, if not an entire department, literally dedicated to try to make sure that there aren't too many white straight people working in the company. Apple's diversity chief, who was a black woman, got forced out of her job after she made comments at a conference saying that there's more to diversity than just someone's race and gender, saying that there can be 12 white, blue-eyed, blonde men in a room, and they're going to be diverse too, because they're going to bring a different life experience and life perspective to the conversation. But that was offensive, and literally, she got forced out of her job. Of course, in the name of diversity, the new Captain America is going to be black. The character who used to play the role is passing the shield off to this gentleman for diversity. Things are getting so crazy that there was a series over in England, or a film about the history of one particular queen, Anne Boleyn, and they literally cast a black woman in the role. This was supposed to be a historical drama, and they literally cast a black woman. And then they didn't understand why there was a controversy. Why the controversy over a black actress playing Anne Boleyn? It's unnecessary and harmful. It's harmful. What's harmful is the imaginary racism, the hallucinations that so many people keep experiencing and then blaming on white people. Like this woman who was flying by herself on a Delta flight, a black woman, who was asked by the flight attendant to switch seats with another passenger, which, if you've ever flown, you know happens all the time, particularly if you're flying in a group or couples, and then sometimes the computer doesn't put your seats right next to each other. So the flight attendant will often ask passengers who are flying by themselves if they'll just switch seats, okay? And so this woman just so happened to get switched to another seat that was in the back of the plane, and she thought it was because of racism. And it was reminiscent of when black people were forced to sit in the back of the bus, what, like 60, 70 years ago?
I don't want to make it a race thing, but instead of asking the two white women that were seated next to me in an attempt to accommodate them, they basically made me have to move. And I just don't know why I had to move, because, that was the seat that I paid for.
But that's still not as bad as this woman who blames the fact that she's obviously obese on white people.
The research says that black women, when we do the same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower, even when we're following the diet, than our white women counterparts.
You are not following the diet. That I know for a fact.
And what public health practitioners think is that our stress responses in the body change our metabolism. It's literally that the racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
Tell us, Tulsi Gabbard, what are the communists doing to this country?
Who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism.
Notice she just didn't say stoking racism, because again, everyone's been conditioned to think that that's something that only white people do to non-white people. Tulsi obviously sees what's happening. Everybody sees what's happening. More and more people are finally starting to speak out about it and denounce the systemic anti-whiteism in America today. And to support my work, head on over to my online store, markdice.com, and order yourself a Free Speech Zone shirt, an F. Joe Biden shirt, or any of my awesome designs. All available in a t-shirt, long sleeve, and a hoodie, and a whole bunch of different colors as well. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.